Alright guys, today I've got an insane story about a stepmom who was stealing her stepson's money because she thought that he owed it to her for taxes. I don't think she understands that she's not the IRS, alright? They're hiring though, so go get a job. Anyway, she stole money out of his sock in the closet and freaked out on him when he got mad about it. I just knew it would be a good story time, so that's what we're gonna be doing today. Let's go.
Nice rack and her ass Brazilian. Just turned 21, but my bank's a million.
Alright, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. There's the comment of the day, and yeah, today's story time is pretty nutso. Thankfully, his dad at least stands up for him, but stepmom, one for the crazy book. Definitely going in the crazy book. Let's go. So the person who sent this in to me turned 16 and was told that they had to save up and buy their own car. And I don't think that's a bad thing. If anything, I feel like you probably value your car a lot more when you have to work for it. I'm not trying to say you suck more than a Hoover vacuum if your parents got you a car, but I am saying that if you had to go and work the same amount of hours that car is worth, you would treat it a lot better. And that's just a fact. Anything that gets just given to you is not going to be as important to you. Either way, he was saving up a bunch of money for this car, working his minimum wage job, and was putting in 40 hours a week, doing overtime whenever he could while going to school because he was still in high school. And he had a bank account originally that all this money was going into. And he had gone with his dad and his stepmom to set up the bank account, and they had been put as the adults on the account. And I think when you're not 18, that kind of has to be the arrangement. But if your parents aren't absolutely psychotic, then your money would go in your bank account and they would just leave it alone. I feel like stealing from your kid is something parents really shouldn't do. But because she had access to the bank account, as soon as the money started getting deposited, she started taking little chunks out, saying that it was for taxes. I don't think she's the federal government or the state government. Those are the only places that I think really are allowed to tax you. If someone just walks up to you while you're walking the dog and starts screaming at you saying that you owe them $3,000 for taxes, you don't have to give them the money. It's not legally obligating. There's no binding there. There's no legal binding that means you have to pay them. But she would take money and say the taxes were going to food, taking care of him, the power bill. And it would be one thing if this family was really struggling. Look, your money goes a long way to help the family, but it wasn't like that. 3 Mercedes in the garage, multiple vacations a year. They would go out of the country as a family. Not the type of situation where you need to be taking your 16-year-old's paycheck to pay for stuff. If anything, they were making him work for his car because they wanted him to have a work ethic because everything else around the house was pretty easy. And this really rubbed the guy the wrong way because she had never done this to any of his older siblings, his older step-siblings, which were her kids. She had only started doing this tax thing to him when he got a job, which is dramatically unfair. The tax thing would just be stupid in general because you're not the government, you're the parent. You can't just take their money. At least I think that's unfair, whatever. Someone out there in the comments right now is like, taxing your kids is actually great. No, all right, it's lame. If they're working a minimum wage job, you don't need to take more money than they're already gonna lose. But especially if you're only going to do it for this one, you might as well just put a note on it that says, I hate specifically you. And that's the way he took it. So he talked to his boss about it, who was pretty cool with him, and his boss came up with the idea of, there's nothing wrong with him taking it in cash if he changed his bank account, and in the meantime, until he got the new direct deposit information, they would have to give it to him in cash. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, if it took him forever to get that form turned in to do the direct deposit, well then that would just suck. Wouldn't that just be so unfortunate? So he goes and unlinks his bank account on the online work thing and starts taking his money in cash. And he starts taking the cash and starts hiding it because he doesn't want his stepmom to know about it. And wouldn't you know it, once the direct deposit stopped showing up in the bank account, the taxes just stopped being talked about. At least at first. It was almost like it magically wasn't an issue once there wasn't a steady stream of cash going into that account. So he kept that system for a while, like a couple months. Every week he would come home with this wad of cash in his pocket, run upstairs as fast as he can so no one could question him, shove it in this sock, put it in a boot in the back of the closet, and just had it that way, which is not the safest if there's a fire or anything. I wouldn't recommend doing this, but if your option is a bank account where someone's just taking the money for stupid reasons, or hiding cash in a sock in a boot in the back of your closet, you pick the boot in the back of your closet. Like, if your mom's gonna police your bank account and start taking money for whenever she wants to buy a new pair of shoes, it makes sense for you to just take it in cash and hide it. No one's gonna hold that against you. And finally, after a few months, his stepmom wanted to have a serious meeting with him one day, so he goes downstairs and she says, "Come sit at the kitchen table," so he does. And she starts really pressing him about how he still works, but he hasn't been bringing home any paychecks, or he hasn't been cashing any paychecks, so she didn't understand what was going on. And he tried to come up with this really crappy story, and it's only a crappy cover story because he was such a hard worker, of how he had managed to break this really piece and expensive blended together there, my bad. Expensive piece of equipment, and because he had broken it while he was working, the company was going to dock his pay until it was paid for. And his stepmom didn't buy it because she knew that everything he did very well, and there was no way he would have made a mistake like that. On one hand, massive compliment, like, "Oh, there's no way you would have screwed up, I don't believe you." And it's his enemy, she's stealing his money, she has no reason to compliment him here. But on the other hand, crap, because she now knows that somehow there's money coming into the house, and she also knows that you don't want to tell her how you're getting paid. So he tries to just be like, "No, I broke something, but he can tell that she does not believe it. You know when someone is like, yeah, okay, but you can tell that they don't believe you, but they don't really want to press you about it anymore. But he had to go to work. And he wasn't thrilled, but she kind of let it go, and that made him extremely nervous. He had no choice but to go to work. It's not like he could miss a shift. His boss was cool by letting him kind of bend the rules to take his paycheck in cash. He didn't want to do his boss dirty and not show up to make sure his money didn't get stolen. And even if his stepmom was getting suspicious, he assumed his hiding spot was going to be good enough. I probably would too. Even if someone's going to go look through your room, you don't expect them to start dumping out each individual shoe. The ones at the back of the closet especially that are already very hard to get to. I don't know, I just wouldn't expect somebody to start with that. And it was only a little 4-hour shift, so it's not like she could totally tear apart the room and get it back together in time. And he made sure to tell her before he left, like, "Hey, this is gonna be a 4-hour shift, so I'll be back pretty soon." And she said, "Great, we can finish that conversation about what's going on with the payments you've been getting so we can go back to getting your taxes on track." And if you have a normal job like this, the taxes are automatically taken out of your paycheck. Like when he got his paycheck every week, there already was taxes withdrawn. She called this the stepmom tax. Like this was not her doing his taxes for him. She was not being helpful. This is literally just saying that, like, I'm gonna take some money to help pay for stuff that she did not do with any of the siblings. So he's at work, and the entire time he just has knots in his stomach, and he's not sure why he's so nervous because he assumed his hiding spot was safe, but he's just really nervous. And as soon as he can go home, he gets home, he runs in, and his stepmom is standing at the door and gives him this weird smile. She never stood at the door and waited to smile at him before, and says, "Hey, how was your day?" And he says, "Great." Vroom, zooms by her. "Don't you want dinner?" No, I'm good, I already ate, bye. Gets up into his room, and everything seems fine. There's nothing out of place, there's nothing weird. And he turns around to go back downstairs because he was a little hungry. Maybe he was going to grab something. But he just has this feeling at the back of his mind. Check the boot, check the boot, check the boot. And he had never had that feeling before. But because the boot is where the money is, he decides to go check. And as he's opening the closet door, he's kind of chastising himself. Like, "This is ridiculous, dude. Your room is fine. Literally nothing is out of place. There's no way that she got in here and stole money from the shoe. There would have to be a sign. She would have to be an absolute ninja to get in here, rip it apart, find it, get it back together so spotlessly just the way I left it." And I'm talking hoodies laid on the floor in the exact position, nothing moved out of the way, everything looked precise. But whatever, he ends up going and he pulls out the boot and he dumps it out and the sock comes out, but it looks a little bit less full. And so he empties the sock, and the sock is just empty. He had been wrapping the money around this empty toilet paper tube, the cardboard tube, and that's the only thing in there. And he starts freaking out because he had been saving money for a few months now, and he's saving up for a car. And he was pretty close, so there was a few $1,000s worth of cash that had been wrapped around this paper towel tube or toilet paper tube in the sock that is now missing. He and his mom, or stepmom, had this weird confrontation about where all his money was. He goes to work, comes back, and it's gone. And he had played nice. He hadn't really complained to his dad about it too much. He had mentioned it a few times. But the fact that she had gone into his room and taken the money and then put everything back to try to trick him, like she was playing mind games with him, and that really sets him off. So he decides he's gonna go downstairs and confront her. And he usually tried to avoid confronting her in front of his dad, but he goes downstairs and she's sitting next to his dad on the couch. And he's so pissed off about all the hard work that had just gone down the drain that she had just stolen that it doesn't matter. He's letting her have a piece of his mind regardless. And listen, man, think about how many hours that is. A few $1,000s might not sound like a ton of money to some people. It's a lot of money to me, but think about how much that is working minimum wage. How many hours that is. We're talking 40-hour weeks for multiple weeks. It's not something that you're just gonna let go of easily. So he walks up to his stepmom and says, "Where's my money? Where is it? What did you do with it?" And his stepmom starts trying to play dumb. What are you talking about? What money? I don't know. I thought you said that your work was keeping your money because you broke that piece of equipment. And his dad is looking back and forth at them like a ping pong ball, bump, 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 getting hit back and forth, but not actually being hit. And he's pretty pissed off because she's playing dumb. And so he says, "Look, I started taking my paychecks in cash because you were taking money out of them and I didn't like that. And I was keeping the money in my sock. It was there before I went to work. You gave me this weird talk about where my money was. I come back and all of it's gone. So something's going on and clearly you know what happened to it." "Well, it wasn't me. I have no idea what you're talking about. I would never take your money. You think that I would break that bond between stepmom and stepkid? I would never take your money. That would be so out of line, so ridiculous. Here you are making up stories trying to make me look bad. You have no respect for me." She starts really trying to spin this thing into poor me, look at me, I'm the poor victim because my kid has suspicions that I stole his money. And he kind of turns it on her and says, "All right, fine. Well, if it wasn't you, then it was your kids because the money's gone and the only people in the house are the people in the house." And he puts her in a weird spot, because that makes a lot of sense. Logically, that tracks. Even his dad is kind of nodding his head, yeah. If it's not his stepmom and the money that he had been saving in his closet is gone, somebody took it. It's not like it grew legs, got up, and disappeared. It's not the beginning of evolution. It's not when the fish decided to make the jump to land. That's not what happened here. Benjamin Franklin didn't suddenly become an anamorph and start walking off. He stayed on the dollar bill, I promise. But she does not like her children being called thieves, and she's immediately like, "No, they would never steal anything." And he says, "Well, then it must have been you." And even his dad at that point says, "I'm not saying you stole it, honey, but if it wasn't you and it wasn't me, then it has to have been your kids, because where else would the money have gone?" And at that point, she realizes she made a mistake, but she doesn't really have an explanation other than selling out her kids. And she might be a bad stepmother, but apparently she draws the line at selling out her own kids. Selling out kids that aren't technically yours is totally different. That's horrible step-parenting, by the way. I feel like if you're gonna be a step-parent, you just gotta really embrace it. Treating them differently, doing stupid stuff like this is not good step-parenting. And it's even worse because you agreed to marry someone knowing you were going to be a step-parent. I don't know. Not that being a bad parent is good, but being a bad step-parent, you agreed to this marriage. Why, if you really knew you didn't want to do it, why'd you do it? Well, I guess the same goes for kids. Whatever, forget the analogy, all right? Pretend it didn't happen. So she finally admits to taking it, but she has to do this long-winded speech about how sometimes when somebody just treats you so poorly for so long, you do things that you later regret, and the amount of ungratefulness that her stepson had shown her is off the charts. He never went out of his way to do anything to make her life easier, blah, blah, blah. Keep in mind, going to school, working 40 hours a week, and he was really pissed off at this because every day he would come home from work and have to do the dishes or have to clean the house, clean the bathroom. He kind of felt like Cinderella, the way he had an evil stepmom making him do chores, to be honest. He was just a lot less pretty. But basically admitting that she was taking all of this money and she had stolen the thousands of dollars in cash out of his closet while he was at work, which meant she had gone through and snooped through all of his belongings because he was ungrateful. Even if someone is ungrateful, it doesn't mean you can just go rob them. Like, what, man? I think we can all agree there are some people that are probably ungrateful for the money they have. It doesn't mean that their bank account is just open season. Some people that have a lot of money, some people that have money in their closet can be ungrateful. And I don't even think this kid was ungrateful. I'm just saying it's a really stupid reason to think it's justified to steal from someone. You just can't rob people, even if they're the most ungrateful person ever. But after she admits it and gives her reasoning, she looks at his dad kind of for some backup as if he's going to support her. And thankfully, for once on the Scrubs channel, he actually has a backbone and starts freaking out on her, asking her why she would ever think that's okay. And especially pointing out that she would never do this to her own kids, which she doesn't even deny. She doesn't even pretend to be a good stepmom. She just embraces it and says that, well, her kids are different because her kids were way better behaved, and so it was totally different if they weren't as grateful. All right, I'm gonna interrupt the video for 1 second. Press the like button and comment. Otherwise, no joke, no scam. This lady will be your stepmom. All right. I know it's a bad one, but I don't make the rules. I just follow them. So you gotta press the like button. So she's saying that he's so much worse than his step-siblings, right? That it's totally different. Even if his step-siblings weren't grateful, they're just so well-behaved. They're absolute angels. And that's absurd because his stepbrother, who was the only one still at home and was like a year younger than him, had just recently, about a month ago, decided to enter his foray into doing bad things by stealing his grandmother's car. Pretty up there in terms of stupid things to do. Like, stealing a car in general is really dumb. It's extra dumb to steal a car from your grandma. What if she has a medical emergency? Oh, where's the car? My grandson took it. Guess I'll just suffer the stroke here. Either way, he steals his grandma's car, takes it on a joyride, decides to try to race someone in a grandma car. It's not fast, loses control of the car, not his, did I mention it's his grandma's, crashes the car, totals the car, and then flees the scene. Gets caught, and when he gets caught is mad that he now has to go over to his grandma's and mow the lawn for the next year to pay for it. She didn't even make him pay for the car. He just has to mow the lawn and he's mad about it. But yes, somehow the guy who's working all these hours to afford a car is the horrible one who's insanely misbehaved. He just was not worse than his step-siblings. He had never stolen anyone's car and crashed it, which put him in a league of his own. It's not saying much to have never done that. And I'm not saying that this guy was like perfectly behaved, but compared to stealing and totaling your grandma's car, anything's pretty chill. Whatever you stay up too late sometimes, well, at least I didn't steal and crash a car. If that's a fair comparison you can make because your family members have done that, you automatically should not be the least favorite. I'm not saying there should be favorites, but you're picking up what I'm putting down. And then she decides to drop a massive ultimatum on this guy's dad and says, your son is tearing our family apart and you need to send him to military school or boarding school or something. And if you're not willing to do that, then this relationship is over. Like, I don't want to be with someone that's not willing to stand up for me and my kids. And his dad starts laughing. He's like, you're really going to give me an ultimatum between you and my kid? And she folds her arms and says yes. And his dad does the duh thing and says, well, I'm going to pick my kid. This situation is insane. You're in the wrong 100%. I'm not going to sell him out because you decided to steal his money and then say that it's okay because he's badly behaved. Like, what's wrong with you? And she started freaking out, saying that he would regret that, da-da-da-da-da. The kid ended up going to his mom's, but yeah, I guess his dad is officially ending that thing. And now she's trying to be all like, no, please, I'm so sorry. But the dad's staying strong, saying that he can't really go back on that. Plus, if someone really hates your kid, it's just not gonna work, man. Like, you're kind of stuck with your kid. There's not much you can do to not be your kid's parent anymore. So trying to spend the rest of your life with someone that genuinely hates your kids would be impossible. Like, how do you even do that? Well, yeah, I thought this story was insane. I knew you guys would like it at least. It is a happy ending. He says his dad does not seem too shaken up or disturbed about it, so maybe this is all a good thing. Everybody wins in the end. I don't know, I just work here. Anyways, press the like button and comment. If you don't know what to comment, just comment stepmom down below, and everyone that watches this will be really confused why all the comments say stepmom. Subscribe if you're new and turn on those notifications. I would really appreciate it. And if you want to listen to these story times in audio format, I do post them on Spotify, link down below. A link to the intro song can be found down there too. And yeah, on that note, guys, I think that'll really do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot. Be sure to comment so everyone is confused why it says stepmom. And I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.